Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's information session on the Miami Springs Charter Amendment ballot question. We're glad you could join us to learn more about this important topic ahead of the upcoming vote. Tonight, we'll provide an overview of the proposed amendments and answer any questions you may have. Our goal is to ensure you leave this session with a clear understanding of the amendment so you can make an informed decision. Tonight with us, we have our City Attorney, Heidi Serra, who will be speaking on the item and answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Who are viewing from home or elsewhere, thank you for listening in. My name is Heidi Serra. I have the pleasure of serving as the City Attorney. Tonight will be fairly brief. The city, as you may or may not know, has one question on the November ballot to amend the city charter. Earlier this year, the City Council proposed this question to be included on the November ballot. In fact, in June of this year, we officially brought the ballot question to the City Council for their review and approval. And by review and approval, I mean their approval to send it to the voters to be placed on the ballot for Miami Springs electorate to be able to decide whether to vote yes or no on the question. So if you are interested in viewing the resolution that was adopted by the City Council, you can obtain it from the city clerk. It's resolution 2024-4206. And all this resolution does is call for the special election that's happening currently. So what the question does is it's an amendment to the city charter to increase the term of office for mayor and council members from 2 years to 4 years. Currently, your council members are elected every 2 years in April. What the proposal would do is provide that when they are elected, the council would serve for 4-year terms, which is pretty consistent with how other municipalities throughout Miami-Dade County handle their elections. In addition, the current process is that all 5 of your council members are up for election at the same time. So what this would do is it would stagger the terms of office for mayor and council such that you have 2 or 3 up for election during each cycle, and that provides for some consistency on the data, so you don't have a complete turnover all at once. The way that the amendment to the actual charter was drafted would be that the mayor and the council member in seat 1 would be up for election together, and then seats 2, 3, and 4 would be up for election at a different election. So there would be elections every 2 years still, but it would be for 4-year terms. So the mayor in group 1 would get elected at 1 election, and then the other 3 would be elected at an election 2 years later. The third thing that this proposed amendment would do is change the date of the general municipal election from the first Tuesday in April of odd numbered years to the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November of even numbered years. So to put it plainly, it would align the city's elections with the county elections and the presidential elections, the elections that most people consider the big election in November. So it does those 3 things. The question that is currently on the ballot for you to vote on is titled 4-year staggered terms of office in November elections. And the question that you would be voting on, I'll just read it so that everybody has it, is the city charter provides that the mayor and council are all elected for 2-year terms in general municipal elections held in April of odd numbered years. That's what it currently says. The proposed charter amendment provides for a transition to 4-year staggered terms for mayor and council with elections to be held in November of even numbered years. Shall the above described amendment be adopted? Yes or no? So we are currently in the middle of early voting and the election is coming up. So you'll have the opportunity, if you've not already submitted your ballot, you have the opportunity to do that now during early voting or on actual election day. The charter amendment language is included in the resolution. So it's an attachment and you can see what the charter would actually look like if this were to be adopted. So it very clearly sets out first, that the election would be in November, not in April, of even numbered years. So again, be aligned with the presidential elections or countywide general elections. The second part is changing the terms of office from 2-year terms to 4-year terms. And I want to be clear on what that means currently. I know that people may wonder, well, does that mean that the current council members will automatically get 4-year terms? That's not what this means. These provisions would take effect after adoption and after the conclusion of the current council members' terms. So in other words, if your current mayor, well, we can't use that as an example because our current mayor is termed out. So she would not get another 2 years if you were to vote yes on this. Her term would still be up now in April. But other council members would continue to serve, but if they are elected come April, they would be elected for a 2 or 4-year term, depending on what seat they're going for. So in order to stagger the terms of office, what we've done is we've provided that if this amendment were to pass in April of 2025, when you have your next regular election, that will be your last April election for the city in April of 2025. At that election, the ones that would be up for election would be, all 5 would be up for election in April of 2025. But the mayor and council member in group 1 would be elected for a term through November of 2028. So it's just shy of a full 4 years, but that's in order to get you on a November election cycle and start staggering those terms of office for the mayor and the council. And then similarly, the council members in groups 2, 3, and 4, who would be elected in April of 2025, would remain in office until November 2026. So they'll have just under 2 years. So they're actually, whoever gets elected for seats 2, 3, and 4 will actually have just under a 2-year term. And so similarly, they would serve until November of 2026 to again align your elections with the general county elections. We also wanted to take into account that we didn't want to unnecessarily provide for council members to have 12-year terms or something like that. So what we did is we made it clear that there's nothing that by doing this, you would not be able to serve more than 10 years. And the reality is that if this were to be adopted, at most, someone could serve, like a current council member could serve as much as 9 years, 7 months. So it's just a little bit over what they would normally be serving if this amendment weren't adopted. So it's really intended to do those 3 things: change the elections from April of odd numbered years to November of even numbered years to be aligned with the countywide or presidential election, where you have, of course, a much higher voter turnout. The second thing again is changing the term of office from 2-year terms to 4-year terms. And then finally, it's staggering those terms such that you have some more stability on the council where you don't have all 5 seats up for election at once. So again, it would be the mayor and the council member in group 1 being elected. And then the groups 2, 3, and 4 being elected in a separate election. So your elections again would be every 2 years, but they would be in November and they would be for a split, sort of split days. Mayor in group 1, council members in 2, 3, and 4. And then as a reminder, this would take effect after this November. So your April election will still happen, your April 2025 election will still happen. But those council members who are elected will serve either just under 2 years or just under 4 years in order to create that staggering. So I think that pretty much sums up everything that we're doing. I'm happy to take any questions, whether from our clerk or our audience members, whether in person or online. Is there anyone online who wishes to make a question? Let's ask a question. And if so, just go ahead and raise your hand. We're not seeing anyone raising their hand. Is there anyone here presently who wishes to ask a question about the proposed charter amendments? None? All right. Well, with that, Madam Clerk, do you have any questions or anything you want to clarify?
I don't know if you want to answer some of the questions for, what the rationale was. I know cost was a factor to change the April meeting to November.
So every time, and you may have these numbers a little bit more at hand. So every election costs money. And when the city has its elections in April, those elections are about $40,000, give or take. When you have the election in November, because you're joining the countywide election or a different election, it reduces your cost. So I think that the estimate that we received from the supervisor of elections said it would be about
10 to 15.
$10,000 to $15,000 to move those elections from April to November. So instead of paying $40,000 every 2 years, you would be doing $10,000 to $15,000 still every 2 years because of the staggering of the terms, but it'll be with the countywide election. And so it's still a savings because if you're doing your elections currently every 2 years at $40,000 each, you're spending $80,000 every 4 years, right? And here you would be doing every 4 years about $30,000. So it's about at least half is what you would be saving, and that's based on the numbers that we're historically looking at, right? Off of how we've paid for elections in the past, and then the transition. As far as some of the reasoning, I touched on this during my remarks, is, you have a higher voter turnout historically on a November election. So in your local city elections in April are hyper local, hyper specific, and it's only for the city of Miami Springs. So every 2 years, you are bringing your voters out in April when they may or may not be thinking about an election to come out to the polls to vote for 5 people. And then a bit of the rationale as well was to provide for stability on the council. Most cities in Miami-Dade County have their council members on staggered terms. Not everyone is up for election at the same time. I think there's only one other city that may be like that in the county, where all 5 are up at the same time. Everywhere else, it's staggered. Your county commission races have staggered terms. Not all county commissioners are up for election at the same time. The same with your school board. The Miami-Dade County School Board has staggered elections. Not the entire board is not up for election at the same time. And cities throughout Miami-Dade County are generally staggered as well. So you have, your 5 council members, 3 might be up for election at once, and then the other 2. If you have a 7-member board, which we don't here in Miami Springs, but if you have 7, sometimes you've got 4 up for election and then the other 3. And part of the reasoning for that is that it provides continuity on the dais. And so you have some historical knowledge of who is on the dais. They've gone through some of the issues. They've helped establish some of the city policies, whether those are by resolution or ordinances. projects that the city's working on. So you have some of that continuity, which can reduce the costs overall for the city, because you don't have 5 brand new people coming in and changing the plans for the city that may have been worked on over the course of a few years. Which also leads to the reasoning for going from 2-year terms to 4-year terms. When you have those 2-year terms, people are moving as quickly as they can to get things done, but you may not have enough time to set those policies and create and see those projects through that you would otherwise have if you had that 4-year term. So, hope that answers that question.
It did.
I think it answered a few questions.
Yes, that was all very comprehensive. Yes. Okay. I think that was it. I know, these elections in November tend to be heavier. And just to let them know that sometimes our questions, when it comes to a November election, will be at the end of a ballot rather than what they see at an April election. So that's also
That's a really good point, Erica.
Yeah.
I was just looking at my sample ballot that the county sends out, so we all get a nice newspaper looking pamphlet in our mail that provides everything that's supposed to be on the ballot, except it doesn't have the municipal questions. So for those of you who are preparing to go to the polls and cast your vote, if you're relying on that, you'll see that there is a disclaimer that the county has put out to reach out to your municipal clerk to get a copy of what your municipal ballot may look like or may have that may not otherwise be on this newspaper sample ballot that the county sends out. And so you can also go online to the Miami-Dade County Clerk of Clerks website. I'm sorry, not clerk of court, supervisor of elections, different role. And so you can go onto their website and you can actually get a copy of your custom sample ballot. All you have to do is put in your address, your date of birth, and you'll be able to get your ballot. And so to Erica's point, our city clerk's point, on this November's ballot, you've got the United States President, you have your US senators from the state of Florida, you have your state house, possibly state senate representatives, state house representatives and state senators who are on the ballot. Following that, you may have other candidates, if you lived in a special district. I don't think that there are any here in Miami Springs. So you'll see some of those on the newspaper sample ballot. Those may or may not be relevant to you. It also has school board members. It has county commissioners. In Miami Springs, your county commissioner is not currently up for election, so you won't see that position on the sample ballot. You also won't see your school board member on the ballot because in this area, the school board member was reelected without opposition. So that's not up for election right now. And then as you progress through the sample ballot, you'll see that there are state constitutional amendments. There's about 4 or 5 of those this year. And then following all of that, you'll see a county straw ballot this year. They have a straw ballot question. And then when you're looking at your custom municipal ballot, you'll see at the very end this question on Miami Springs Charter. So we hope that you'll wait till the end of your ballot and make sure to fill in your response to that question. If the ballot measure passes, then in your November 2026 election, you would go through that same process where you'll have any United States issues, state issues, school board, etc. And then the last things on the election will be voting for your local elected officials. So I do see that there's a hand raised from an audience member, but I think that they may have sent in their question. I'm not sure.
Hi, it's Tammy.
Hello, Madam.
How are you? Hello. I just wanted to make a recommendation since we are recording this meeting. that maybe we post the information, because what we're seeing as an audience is just basically the cover sheet that just says amendment questions. So I don't know if I know you shared a lot of information about the staggering terms. So you might want to share some of that so it at least appears on the recording, and that way we can continue to play it on the website.
Sure, that's a great point. If we can pull up and share this screen, Madam Clerk, the city's website will show you where exactly folks can go. If you go to the city's website, the question is on the city's website, and we're gonna put up what the actual text of the charter would look like if this were to be adopted. So the clerk is showing you the homepage. There's a link there about the special election on November 5th. And the question that is on the ballot, you can click and you'll see the actual question is, scroll up.
Sorry.
There's the question that you'll see on the ballot. It's ballot numbers 316 to say yes, that you do want it, or 317 to say no, that you do not support the charter amendment question. And we'll add the actual text of what the charter would look like so that folks can see exactly what the language would be. And again, I know our council members, this is in the electorate's hands, so the council, whether they support the initiative, the question or not, they have voted to place it on the ballot so that you, the voters, can make the decision. It's in order to, I should have mentioned as well that in order for the charter to be changed, it has to go to a vote of the electorate. So it's in the people's hands, what the charter says. The charter is the equivalent of the city's constitution. So you've got your laws that are done to ordinances, and the charter is the equivalent of the constitution. So it's a lot, it's up to the voters to change what it says. And this is the process for doing that. So this question was initiated by the council members. It evolved. So I do want to point that out. It started with some of the council asking to consider changing the terms of office from 2-year terms to 4-year terms. That was an initiative. Actually, Mayor Mitchell had brought that to the dais for their consideration. She's termed out, so it would not affect her, but she wanted the council and of course you, the residents, the electors, to be able to decide whether the terms of office should remain at 2-year terms or be 4-year terms, and the reasoning being some of the things that I already mentioned. And then that question evolved into these other aspects of moving the election from April to November and staggering the terms of office. So hopefully that provides some additional context. All right, and with that, I think we'll conclude. We hope to see you either at early voting or on November 5th to cast your vote. Again, the city's charter question will likely be the very last question on your ballot. And you can vote yes or no. Again, it's to increase the term of office from mayor and council from 2 years to 4 years, stagger the terms of office for mayor and council, so that not all 5 of your elected officials are all up for election at the same time. So there would be 2 up for election during one election cycle and then 3 during the next election cycle. And then finally, changing the date of your municipal elections from your April of odd numbered years to November of even numbered years.
Perfect. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Madam
I just did want to mention.
As a reminder that Miami Springs does not have a early voting site. A lot of questions as far as early voting. I just wanted to let you know that the closest precinct for early voting would be the elections department. That's the closest one to the Springs.
Or
So,
JFK.
or JFK, the library in Hialeah as well. Otherwise, on November 5th, all the precincts in Miami Springs will be open. So thank you so much, Heidi, for your time and the explanations. That was great. And if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to the city clerk's office. We're always here to help you. You can email us, visit us at 201 Westwood Drive on the second floor. We'll welcome you with open arms and hopefully answer any questions that you may have on this upcoming election. Thank you.